Hi friends, this is Pastor Keith for Trinity Chapel, Charlotte, coming to you with another edition of Walking Through Westminster, and I want to thank you for joining with me today for this next installment as we keep looking at the Westminster Shorter Catechism. Today we come to question 47 of the Shorter Catechism, dealing with what is forbidden in the First Commandment. And so we'll ask this question 47, what is forbidden in the First Commandment? And the answer given, the First Commandment forbids the denying or not worshiping and glorifying the true God as God and our God, and the giving of that worship and glory to any other which is due to Him alone. So when it comes to what's forbidden in the First Commandment, obviously going back to what we talked about last time about what is required, what would obviously be forbidden in the First Commandment is not doing everything that's required in the First Commandment. So that's the first part of the answer there. It's forbidden for us to deny God, to deny that He is the true God, and to deny Him as our God. All of those things would be a breaking of the First Commandment. But it's that second half of that answer that I think is really significant to understand what the First Commandment is getting at in its fullness. The giving of that worship and glory to any other which is due to Him alone. When God says in the First Commandment, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," what He means is don't look anywhere else for those things that only could come from me. Now, we do this in a lot of different ways. Obviously, historically, part of the Protestant Reformation was we looked at sort of the worship of saints, and especially the worship of the Virgin Mary, and we looked at that and we said, you know, you're really ascribing to creatures powers and capabilities that could only rightfully be attributed to the Creator, right? Even if we're not saying that Mary can answer your prayers necessarily, but rather that she just takes your prayers and gives them to Jesus, even then you're still attributing to the Virgin Mary or to any other saint the divine ability to be omniscient, to be able to know all the prayers that are coming from all people around the world. That is an attribute that only God has, and it's something we shouldn't attribute to any other. That's like a historical example. I think a more real-life example that most of us probably struggle with more than that is looking to things for fulfillment that only could come from God alone. One of the pieces of advice that my wife and I had in our premarital counseling had to do with not looking to your spouse to do for you the things that only Jesus could do for you. Don't look to your wife to be Jesus for you. Don't look to your husband to be Jesus for you. There are certain things that only God can promise and only God could fulfill. And the problem we run into is when we start looking to other creatures, other created humans or things to give that fulfillment that only God could give. So we break the First Commandment if we're putting our trust or looking for fulfillment in our spouse or in our children or in our job or in politics, whatever it might be. If we're trying to find our fulfillment, if we're giving that worship and glory to any other thing other than the Lord our God, we have become breakers, violators of the First Commandment. What we want to do in the First Commandment is see that God alone is worthy of these things. God alone can give you fulfillment. God alone, in His Son Jesus, can offer you fullness of life. And no one else can do that for you. Nothing else could do that for you. And so that's why that thing is forbidden from us in the First Commandment. Not only because it's offensive against God, because we're looking somewhere else for something that only He could give us, but also because it's bad for us. We're not going to find fulfillment in those other things which could only be found in God. So I hope that that is encouraging to you. That's sort of the gist of the First Commandment. I think that is a really important question for us to wrestle with as we keep moving forward in life. Am I looking to something besides the Lord to fulfill me in whatever aspect of life I'm thinking about? So I hope that that's helpful to you this week, maybe challenging to you as you need it. But thank you for being with me. Next week we'll start looking at the Second Commandment. Until then, may God richly bless each one of you.